Yeah, Lee, Diane, this is the 20th time Kaptur is running for re-election in Congress, and it could be her closest race yet.
Whatever happens, it's likely to be a close election.
Close general elections aren't something Marcy Kaptur has experienced many times in her career. In the last 18 general election races, she's only fallen short of 60% of the vote once. Vying for her 21st term in Congress, the longest-serving woman in U.S. House history is coming out swinging.
He's not just radical, he's dangerous.
Many of her TV ads, airing months before the election, have shown pictures of her opponent J.R. Majewski at the U.S. Capitol on January 6th. Majewski has said he didn't enter the Capitol that day and isn't charged with any crimes, but has said he feels the election was stolen. His campaign accuses Kaptur of pushing a false narrative to deceive voters. University of Toledo political scientist Jeff Broxmeyer says Democrats appear to want to make these images a central part of the campaign, especially with the ongoing January 6th hearings.
Representative Kaptur is trying to kind of lay some groundwork to make the argument for re-election in a climate that's frankly pretty unfavorable to Democrats right now.
Also unfavorable, Kaptur's new district that was safe for Democrats and now leans toward Republicans.
We're on Hill Avenue, 475 runs right above it. This right now is the westernmost point of Marcy Kaptur's district. But if she wins re-election for the first time, she would serve voters from here all the way to the Indiana border.
The last time Toledo's congressional district shared a border with Indiana was 1853. This week, the Ohio Supreme Court ruled this map is unconstitutional. A new one needs drawn for 2024. To make it there, Kaptur has to win over voters she's never represented in areas that are increasingly voting against her party.
She's campaigning as an incumbent who's done this and knows how to try and cultivate a constituency, but it is an uphill road.
Kaptur told me when Ohio was redrawing districts that she would run regardless of the new boundaries, adding she'll always put her record up against anybody's. Reporting live, Josh Krupp, 13 ABC Action News.
J.R. Majewski is defending his military service that's been called into question this week. The Republican hoping to unseat Congresswoman Marcy Kaptur says his deployment locations are classified. 13 ABC's Josh Krupp is live now with how Majewski is explaining his record. Josh.
Diane, Majewski called a brief news conference today to address an Associated Press story published Wednesday. The headline is that Majewski misrepresented his military service. At the heart of the story is Majewski's time in Afghanistan.
The story has been published and the damage has been damning.
Republican J.R. Majewski, the party's nominee in Ohio's 9th congressional district, defended his military record Friday. He sold himself as a combat veteran who deployed to Afghanistan after 9/11. But military documents obtained by the Associated Press say he never deployed to the country. Instead, the AP reports he was based in Qatar, where he helped load planes and landed at other bases to transfer military passengers, medics, and supplies.
I flew into combat zones often, specifically in Afghanistan, and I served my country proudly.
He didn't offer evidence of that service in Afghanistan at his news conference.
The orders and the military records that I've been able to obtain from my personal files shows that all of my deployments are listed as classified.
He didn't say when or where he was at in Afghanistan.
We flew in and out of the area of responsibility multiple times. It's almost impossible for me to tell you where I was on what day.
Majewski read a 4-minute statement before taking questions for about 2 minutes. Then he said he had another appointment to attend. On his way out, he told reporters his lawyer would, quote, share everything in due time. After the story was published, the National Republican Congressional Committee reportedly canceled nearly $1 million in TV ads it planned to run for Majewski in the district leading up to the election. He declined to comment on that report. His opponent, Representative Marcy Kaptur, called on Majewski to explain more about his record.
It's his responsibility to answer those questions and to explain his own history. I really don't know very much about the man.
Now, an Air Force spokesperson told the New York Times this week there's no way to verify whether Majewski did serve in Afghanistan. Records obtained by the AP show that he received no commendations or medals that people who did have combat experience there would have received. The Air Force says that list might be incomplete. Majewski says he just never applied for those medals and never asked for his records to be updated. Reporting live, Josh Krupp, 13 ABC Action News.
A seat Republicans believe is key to taking back control of the U.S. Senate, the one held by Ohio's Rob Portman since he took office in 2011. Democrats believe their nominee, Congressman Tim Ryan, can flip the seat blue. Republican J.D. Vance is trying to make sure that doesn't happen.
You know, I feel very confident about us winning. I think that the message is very simple. Do you want a rubber stamp for the policies of the last couple of years? That's Tim Ryan. Or do you want somebody who's actually going to get some things constructively done for the people of Ohio?
Vance emerged from a crowded field of candidates in the primary, thanks in part to a boost he received from the endorsement of former President Donald Trump. He did not have Portman's endorsement in the primary, but this week, Portman wrote that he believes Vance's policies will be better for Ohioans. Vance calls Portman an effective senator.
I think his fundamental model as a guy who cares about public policy and cares about the details of legislation, it's like a really good model to follow.
Portman just returned from a trip to Ukraine. He continues to urge support for the country in its war against Russia. It's perhaps the issue in which Vance strays from Portman the most.
I think we're at the point where we've given enough money to Ukraine. I really do. We've given them $80 billion. The Europeans need to step up. And frankly, if the Ukrainians and the Europeans, more importantly, knew that America wasn't going to foot the bill, they might actually step up.
Vance was helped financially in the primary by tech entrepreneur Peter Thiel to the tune of $15 million. The Washington Post reports Thiel has no plans to spend more this cycle. Vance says he's not concerned about that or the current fundraising gap between him and Ryan.
So at the end of the day, having a good message, having the right candidates, I think matters more than money. We've got the money we need to get the message out, and the campaign's in good shape.
He also told me he believes former President Trump will return to Ohio this month or next to rally for his campaign at least once. Now, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis recently rallied for Vance in Youngstown, and at the time, Tim Ryan told us he believes Vance is an extremist, saying he believes Ohio's next senator should come to the middle and try and find consensus. Reporting live, Josh Krupp, 13 ABC Action News.
In your voice, your vote tonight, it's a Democratic State House primary that recently turned negative when one candidate sent ads in the mail criticizing her opponent. She's defending the ads while her opponent defends his record. 13 ABC's Josh Krupp is live with why each thinks that they should represent Toledo in the state capitol. Josh.
Here are those mailers that were sent out this week. The stakes are high next Tuesday in this contest, with the winner likely landing a new job in the State House.
Ohio's newly drawn 43rd House District is considered safe for Democrats by a nearly 2-to-1 margin. The 43rd features Ottawa Hills and parts of Toledo, including the Old West End, Old Orchard neighborhood, and parts of Southwest Toledo. Vying for the Democratic nomination, Daniel Ortiz, a certified pharmacy technician.
I think we need more working class representation in our government.
And Toledo City Councilwoman Dr. Michelle Grimm.
We need strong, effective representation down in Columbus.
Grimm won her seat on Toledo City Council in 2021. Ortiz lost a bid for council last year. Ortiz says he wants to focus on legislation addressing prescription drug costs, something he's encountered from the pharmacy register.
See the look in their eye when you tell them, okay, it's $600 for a month's supply, and then they just can't afford it. You know, that really lingers with you.
Grimm worked in public health for 15 years and touts her recent experience chairing Toledo City Council's health committee.
That's been a really important role for me on the city council. We were able to address things like overturning Roe versus Wade, mental health, strengthening healthcare services in the city.
She recently launched a mail ad campaign targeting Ortiz's votes as a citizen against levies to fund emergency services and road repairs.
Primaries are about choices. It would have been catastrophic for our city, and we would have spent years trying to recover from that.
Ortiz says he didn't want funding to rely on taxes from working families. He called photos included in the ad sensationalized and misleading, saying in a statement they crossed a line. He says he wants to serve in Columbus to bring a different perspective to the issues.
My experience is a lot like most people's experience, and yet there are very few people with our experience in elected office.
Our midterm election coverage continues tonight. Republicans celebrating sizable wins in Ohio's statewide races. Democrats trying to figure out what happened. 13 ABC's Josh Krupp is live to explain how they're assessing the results of Tuesday's red wave in Ohio. Josh.
Top Republicans are declaring today that last night's sweep of those statewide races solidifies the fact that Ohio is a red state. Democrats, meantime, think otherwise. It wasn't a complete wash for the left. Democrats still flipped a congressional seat in Cincinnati and won their other battleground congressional districts, including with Marcy Kaptur in Toledo. But Republicans picked up seats in the state House and Senate, strengthening their supermajority in the General Assembly. Their margins of victory in statewide races were significant. Democrats say they were playing from behind, going up against incumbents who had significant fundraising advantages. But experts say it is just further proof that Ohio's political landscape has changed.
which is suggesting that Ohio doesn't really hold the purple status that it held for so many years. And that's the big takeaway. I think we have yet another election under Ohio's belt indicating that it is now a red state.
Republican lawmakers now have full control over the redistricting process, and conservatives picked up their needed seats on the Supreme Court to fend off potential legal challenges to new maps which need redrawn this coming year, potentially setting Democrats back further. But they say they're not going to stop pushing for fair districts. Reporting live, Josh Krupp, 13 ABC Action News.